The entity left behind whenever human died was 6 layers of human existence: fitrah, spiritual heart, nafsu, feelings, minds, and thoughts, who no longer in possession of their 7th layer, the physical body or outer physique. Emotion which engulfed Adam and Eve when they saw their children still around, though in different existence, were very mixed. In the split seconds they registered this new fact, hundreds of hypotheses about the nature of these creatures came up to their minds. On one hand, they were devastated to witness the brutality of their children, but on the other hand, they were elated to learn that they could still communicate with their dead children. On one hand, they were shocked to realize there was ugliness or Satan hidden so deep inside their children, but on the other hand, their curiosity was piqued, faced with such irresistible mystery to solve. Without further ado, they started to analyze this new problem. They drew 2 preliminary conclusions from the incident. 1. Since the murders would only harm humans, it was imperative to accurately inspect the real reasons behind this travesty, so that certain steps could be applied to prevent the ugliness to manifest into other similar actions. 2. Since the deceased could still interact with the living, though with certain limitations, it was also important to design a mechanism to separate them, especially to create a controlled environment for the research. They issued restrictions, set of rules for their living children to obey, simplified in every way so it can be easily understood by humans' limited perception. This was actually quite challenging for Ifrit, Khidir, Adam and Eve, since humans were very lax in understanding the grave consequences of their actions. Unlike their smaller counterparts, the 4 Muhammads were ancient and had witnessed with all their existence the power of all the all-encompassing. They had distinct experiences with the Almighty and had no doubt about His justice. Even though in some specific cases they did not know how His justice would manifest, they were absolutely sure with all their hearts that humans would receive the consequences from their actions regardless, sooner or later. Therefore, they often had no choice but to invent simplified reasonings so the humans could better understand and then actually perform it. The most usual pattern was that actions in line with the rules made by the 4 Muhammads would gain rewards in the afterlife, while those which did not would receive retributions after they have died. For examples, the teaching about what happens when people died and buried. Humans will be visited by 2 angels who ask, who is their God? What are their religions? Who are their prophets? And what are their holy books? After which all humans' actions in their life will be judged and weighed. Good deeds will gain rewards while bad deeds will receive retributions. Humans whose good deeds outweigh their bad deeds will be accepted into heaven and entitled to many perks, with angels as their servants. Meanwhile, those whose sins are too much will be punished and tortured by executioners as ordered by the Almighty. This kind of simplification was reused over and over again during the long history of humankind, manifesting as various teachings formulated by 4 Muhammads for human. As time progressed and more spirits descends into the earth, born as humans, several details were updated to better fit the current culture, so it stays relevant to humans. Meanwhile, in order to accommodate their deceased children, they created pockets of dimensions in the physical realm, separated from the living world. The nature of these pockets differed, dependent on which of the four created them. Ifrit, Khidir, Adam and Eve, with their own ways, chose the best of the best among their children, either because of their strength, their intelligence, or wisdom, depended on which characteristics they loved the most, and gave them some of their power over elements, so they could help their parents on many occasions, including managing those pockets of dimension. They were also tasked with supervising and managing their offspring, who lived from generations to generations, considering their numbers continue to grow as time progressed. These favored children of Muhammad's given power so great were known by humankind by different names, even though most of the time they were one and the same. In time, they even become gods, worshipped by the living. They were the gods and goddesses mentioned in many myths and folklores, religions, and faiths. After delegating tasks to their chosen children, Ifrit, Khidir, Adam, and Eve separately tried to solve the mystery of human nature, why they had tendencies to hurt themselves and others, so they could finally put an end to these problems. To them, this chance was a continuation to their suspended researches in the past, when they tried without any success, infusing their spirits with animal physique. The only difference was, before they tried to engineer a perfect fusion, while now they tried to reverse engineer humans, searching for how the perfect unison actually came about. During those researches, they often asked for clues to the all-encompassing. The responses to those requests, which often took extensive time, always given to them through Jibril in the spiritual world to Khidir in the physical world. That was the reason, after when through stories given from generation to generation, Jibril often misunderstood as someone who only had responsibility and power over divine messages. If only the problems faced by the four Muhammads were only that, the consequences would not be so dire until this point. Contrary to their expectations, their so-called favored children, who never actually know the presence of the Creator, as time progresses, tend to have their own ideas in how to correctly manage humankind. Instead of being helped to solve the problems, those children of Muhammad, who we recognize now as celestial beings from various cultures, saw their parents as rivals, and in the end became part of the problems faced by Ifrit, Khidir, Adam, and Eve. Thanks to these deities' participations, or let us just call them demons, humans who live in the past who were given godly power, lives for humankind across the generations became even more complicated, like knotted threads. They elevated themselves as gods, separating their existence from humans they considered small and weak. They gathered their own offspring and shared their power. They shaped civilization according to their will across the world. They modified the power given by the four Muhammads and do anything to increase it, including sacrificing their living offspring lives. Each party who had enough power to influence human civilizations, including the four Muhammads, in the end become competitors in deciding who was the most righteous. Humans live across the world become the sacrifices, like animals bred to fight against each other in a cage. This was one of the reasons why wars, killings in small and big scales, either fueled by religions, faith, difference in culture, which deities worship, races, ethnics of the living or the dead, never really stopped in the long history of humankind. Considering as time flies, the number of people who died but still harbored unfulfilled ambitions in their lives become more numerous. Death did not really stop them.